Howdy, and welcome back to You've Got People Problems, the podcast where we tackle the leadership challenges that no one wants to talk about, but every business faces. I'm your host, Mel Ortiz with Activate Human Capital Group. Today's conversation is with Kristen McAllister, a fractional executive strategist and leadership advisor. You'll hear more about her background as we get into the episode, but this conversation centers around how business owners can build organizations that create freedom instead of dependence. We explore why so many founders become the bottleneck in their own businesses and what it takes to build a leadership team that can execute without the owners making every decision. In this conversation, we'll talk about how to build a company that can operate without the founder at the center of every decision, why defining the finish line before hiring or restructuring leads to stronger accountability and better results, and how the right leadership structure helps business owners move from constantly reacting to intentionally leading. Let's get to it. And if you like this topic, listen to the one about the Founder's Trap with Glenn Patch. They're right on the same vein, and I think you'll get a lot from both of them. Howdy, y'all, and welcome to You've Got People Problems. This episode's guest is Kristen McAllister, someone new to my world, but when we first connected, we totally hit it off. Like, we see the world in very many of the same ways, and I was really excited about having her point of view on our discussion. So, Kristen, welcome, and thank you for being here.
I thank you. I'm excited to be part of that discussion today.
Yeah. Tell us a little bit about your background and how you got into the fractional space of supporting business owners. To our topic today is building companies that can operate without us, which for some of the entrepreneurs I know sounds so fictional that we can't even imagine it, but we know it to be true. And our job is to help guide them.
Absolutely. And as you and I both know, as business owners, we are running so hard. We're just not always running towards what we actually want or what we actually started our company for, whether that's freedom, we want to make an impact. We just want a business that works without us, and we get to be part of that paycheck of the month club. What I do, I get to work with businesses and help them figure out who do they need to be surrounded by, especially as a leadership team, and then fill those gaps. That's where that fractional executive, the interim executive, do we need someone long-term, full-time owning these business objectives? And I love working with leaders to get clarity on what is that finish line that they're running towards. And then we build a leadership structure to get them there. And more, Melissa, I'm seeing it where we're tired. We've been through a lot the last 10, 15 years, and business owners are just exhausted and have just lost that clarity on what am I going towards and why.
I think we get to the point where we're just busy being busy, Kristen, and we don't make the mental time or space to question what are we working towards. And we feel like we're doing all we can do. So I'm looking forward to this conversation because even just you brought up something on our pre-call that I was like, oh, that sounds good. We need to put a pin in that and come back to it. But I think this is a good discussion. So I'm looking forward to jumping in with you.
Absolutely.
So if you know Kristen and you don't know me, my name is Mel Ortiz, and my sandbox that I like to play in is people problems, whether it's making sure we have the right people in the right seats and doing like a team talent audit to see where our issues might lie, whether it's knowing we're currently in a market that has more candidates than jobs, how do we filter through those candidates to say, okay, which of all these candidates have the highest probability for success in the role? We use predictive index for that, and it's been very, very client friendly, easy to onboard. Or whether it's taking the pulse on engagement and making sure people have what they need to perform at the highest level. So we do a lot of role clarity efforts, a lot of right people, right seats work, and a lot of supporting clients and figuring out what the issues are. So I'm looking forward to this discussion. Kristen, tell me a little bit about when you're working with owners to figure out what gaps exist. What are some of the typical conversations sound like that get you to the right answer of how your team can best support them?
It's usually, here's what I need. 15 minutes into the conversation, what they thought they need has absolutely nothing to do with where they're at and where they want to get to. So as you know, I love what you do with let's find the right people and get them doing the right things. But for that, as an owner, I need to know, where do you want to get to and why? What do we need them to accomplish? What goals do you have in your personal life? Not just that I want to double the company in 3 years. I want to get to 50 million. Why is that? And there are so many ways about getting them there, which then decide, what do we need the business to accomplish? And then who do
Enable
we
that.
need to accomplish that? And that's when you look at all the tools that you have and what we're comparing it to, you probably get the call that I get, which is, here's a job description. It's got a list of 25 things that fit probably 25,000 people. And we're getting 2,500 candidates for any one of those things. And not one of them actually says, here's what the business is going through. Here's what we want to get to. And we need someone to get us there, not just someone to do task A, task B, task C. And that's usually where those conversations go is, I need this. We have a better understanding of the owner, what they're looking for, what they actually want that person to accomplish, or what problems are going on in the business that makes them think, I need a fractional COO. I need a VP of sales on an interim basis. And through that conversation, we usually go, actually, before we bring in the COO, let's get a fractional CFO first. So the COO knows what the numbers are.
Yeah.
It's not a guessing game. Let's bring in an interim VP of marketing first to be able to build a pipeline so that the sales can do something other than sit there and make 20 phone calls a day and hope and pray that they're getting the right people. So is it,
Yeah.
what do we want to accomplish? So that you can help them figure out, now, what do we got the right people doing on the right activities on any given day?
That's such a holistic approach.
It seems backwards, which is why I always say, best way to win the race, let's start at the finish line. Why in the world are we starting at the start line when halfway through it, we realize we're running the wrong race? Listen, we just ran a 10K when we actually signed up for a half marathon. We went the wrong direction. So what race are we in? Where is that finish line that we want to get to? And once our team has clarity on what we now are clear on, where do we want to get this company to? They have clarity to say, okay, so here's what we need to do to get there. And I know how to do this. And let me
Yeah,
just go run with it.
that's fun. Huh. So tell me some of the barriers that you run up against as you start down this path. Is it a lack of clarity on what I want as an owner? Is it a lack of resources to fund the team that I need? Tell me some of the normal, do you have a top three
We get
barriers that you run into?
absolutely. And you end up with, we'll start with the first one. The biggest one is the willingness of the owner to do something different than how they've always done it. So that's where I have my one third, one third, one third. I've worked with hundreds of businesses and owners, and you get everyone wants to do something differently. They want different results. You have one third who's self-aware, they want to make the change, and they're willing to do all that work and be as uncomfortable as it can be in order to do it differently. Then you've got the one third who want to do it differently, but that's a little too uncomfortable for them. I'm just going to go back and do it the same way I always have, which is the dangerous thing is, you bring in all these resources, your teams are ready for something different, and they can finally go lead, and we're still doing it the same way we've always done it. That's a tough thing to break through. And then you've got the one third that just wants to do it their way. It's always going to be their way. May or may not have the self-awareness that it needs to be done a different way. And some are successful in spite of it. And they really don't need yours and my help. So finding that one third, that's a tough thing because we get 100% of the phone calls.
Right. I'm actually shocked, Kristen, that it's a third in that first category. And maybe they're self-selecting in to call you because they are willing to do the work and they do have some self-awareness. But man, I think there's a study that's like 15% of people actually are self-aware and 90% think they are. So that
I
it
get,
can be real
and that's
challenging.
1/3 of the phone calls that I get. And of all those that we work with, what then to your point is that may only be 15% of the business ownership population.
Yeah.
That's a startling truth. So when we look at the barriers, okay, so now you and I are down to 15% of 85% of the barrier there,
Yeah.
15% of we're willing to do the work, we're willing to put the resources, we're willing to be
Yeah.
honest about our resources, as you mentioned. And part of that transition is I've built this company around me. I've built this company because of me. And my identity is wrapped up in this company and being the one to make the decisions, to
Put out
have
the
the
fires.
control. I started this company because I worked for a company that wouldn't give me control, that wouldn't let me make my own decisions. So I'm going to go build my own sandbox and do it myself, do it my way. And that's
Sure.
fantastic. We're successful. We got to hire a team and build a team. Unfortunately, we built that team around us. We built that team through what we are the center of the universe. So now, how do we decouple ourselves from all those decisions that we used to be the one to make? And as we grow, as you know, at the more you add people, it doesn't double or triple it, it exponentially increases the complexity of
Yes.
our decisions.
And the ones, you and I were talking about this earlier. One of the things I am continually seeing with clients is we'll have owners who their teams have grown substantially and they've brought in leaders that they like and trust. And a lot of what's getting in the way from what I'm seeing is this owner's holding on to these management decisions that they're not allowing their leaders to make. So leaders are being stuck with people that they'd say, I would probably have terminated this person, but the owner has a fear or a loyalty or something that isn't serving the business. And I feel like I'm having the best interest of the business, but there's this rub, and it, from what I've seen, leads to some serious disengagement among the leadership team because they're not being given the freedom to do what they know they need to do for the business so that they can figure out the problems that come in the wake of making some people changes. And it's just this continual rub.
And you and I are seeing it right now on social media. There's any number of posts and venting going on from executives, from leaders saying, here's why you're losing great people right now. You're not letting them do what you brought them in to do, which unfortunately, what most are bringing them in to do is that 25 list of a COO job description.
Right.
So let me ask you this, Melissa: how many business owners that you know love doing interviewing? They love being clear on their expectations. We love doing performance reviews. How many?
Zero. Zero
Zero.
percent.
I've spoken to a lot of CEO groups. I can tell you, I had one person ever raise her hand. She was a pure operator. She was the integrator side, not the visionary side. She
Yeah.
loved doing that stuff. So if we are not clear on what we want, what finish line are we going towards? Are we building an enterprise value, a company with an enterprise value of 20 million, because that's what we need in order to retire? We've met with our wealth manager. Are we building a lifestyle company that gives me $1 million a year? Or am I building this as the first of 3 portfolio companies that I want to build? And I'm going to spin any number of things. All of those then decide what outcomes we need from the company. That outcome then tells your newly hired operations leader what they need to accomplish. They own decreasing operating costs by 10%. Your head of customer success owns increasing customer retention by 15%. Very few companies out there know what those outcomes need to be, putting a number to it, and then aligning, do they have the skills to be able to deliver on that? And without that clear expectation, especially the owner, if I don't have clarity, I got to have my hands in every single thing that they're doing because we are making it up as we go every single day, Melissa.
Right.
How many
Absolutely.
situations have you been in where we're trying to do, we all want accountability, but doing that hard work for clarity on what are they
What are we
accountable?
holding him accountable for?
Yep. So
Yeah.
when you look at the teams that you work with, how many want to be accountable? They want to know, what number do I need to hit to win?
Yeah. Okay, so I had this conversation today, uh, and we were looking at someone's predictive index profile, a leader's profile. And this leader keeps saying, I don't understand what the problem is. What's your problem with me? I'm hitting my numbers. And I said, well, that's interesting because the numbers you've set for this leader don't align with the results you want to see for the organization. And so his win isn't our win. And the leader I was on with, who this person reports to, went, that's the entire answer. We have to figure that out because that alignment doesn't exist. And if the metrics aren't there and they think they're winning, everybody, one of my mantras is nobody wants to suck at work. And that's why we do so much work around clear expectations because all of our employee engagement data over the last 20 years that we've been collecting says people aren't clear on how to win at work. And if I'm not clear, guess how much time I'm wasting of the time you're paying me for? A lot. I'm wasting a lot of time because I'm trying to find something that'll make somebody happy because I'm not clear on, it's 15% customer retention. That's my number. It's 10% decrease in operating costs, like you mentioned.
Mhm.
But not enough people have those targets in mind. And so they're
I,
flailing.
I love that you mentioned they may have a target and they're hitting that target. It's just not aligned with the company goal. So it's either costing the company money or it's not moving the company towards it. That's like saying I made a goal in any sport, but you made it for the other team. How is that helping us win? I'll
Right.
t- I was so excited when I got a note from my son's middle school this past year, and the counselors are sitting down with them and going over SMART goals. I thought, wait a minute. They're teaching 12 and 13-year-olds SMART goals, and most organizations don't know what those are. So, to help kids succeed in middle school and high school, they're teaching them SMART goals. They need to
Yeah.
be specific, measurable, attainable, and they are relevant. How is each individual team's goal and individual relevant to the company's goals and aligning those? You asked at the beginning, what are the biggest challenges I'm seeing? What do business owners, and I have them go through a list of, there's about 5 things that say, what do you feel that you are missing the boat on this right now? And if you need to accomplish one thing, it's actually not clarity on, they feel like they know what to do. It's aligning their team with the outcomes that they want. And that's where they feel like they're missing the boat. They know it and they know it in their head. They just haven't gone through a translation course or communication. I mean, what company doesn't love
Totally. I think
communication?
translation
And
is
I'll
the
be
right
as
word.
facetious as I
Yeah.
can be with that. It's not communicating, and then the team isn't aligned with that outcome.
Because they don't understand. So often we have these leaders who paint these grand visions and they don't have anybody on the team to translate to, okay, well, here's what that means for us
Yes.
today, this year, this quarter to get that moving. And so they're like, what's the problem? Well, it's because often we need that translator to bring it down to something that's actionable and tangible because the vision, people can see it, but not know how to get there.
And as a visionary, the last thing I want to do is to take that head in the way my brain works and make it understandable for others. And that's where you can bring in an expert like yourself. You can bring in an interim GM, a fractional COO to be able to pull that information out of our heads, lay it out, and you can just sit there and spit up and just 2 hours of brain dumping. And these
Yes.
brilliant individuals then can see all the patterns. They can translate it, they can reiterate it back to you so that you can clearly say it in one sentence,
Yes.
and then can help you say that same sentence on repeat 200 times for the next 6 months without changing your mind. Is anytime that shiny object, my husband calls it the good idea fairy, shows up on a Friday afternoon, call your fractional COO, not your VP of HR, not your director of operations, call your fractional COO and say, I've got an idea. They'll talk us down. They'll rationalize, they'll put it in a parking lot, short-term parking, long-term parking, and then reiterate, what are we focused on? What's the outcome that we need this year? What are we going after? And I love that we don't have to have every superpower. We can bring others in to help us figure that out and then translate it.
I heard this. This is bringing something up that really resonated. A couple weeks ago, I heard a speaker, and they were talking about the fact that the word priorities as a plural did not come into the English language until the 1900s in America. Leave it to Americans to say, it used to just be a priority. What is the priority? And then the Americans were like, hold on, hold on. If we have one priority, we can have 10. So let's talk about the priorities. And that's where we've gotten ourselves to this point where we think we can do all the things all the time. And instead of identifying the one, and I think those fractional COO roles are the ones who say, I hear you. And that probably fits, but we need to get here. It's kind of like my husband always wants to do things with the kids that they're not quite old enough, mature enough, physically ready for, but he has this vision of what it's going to be in his mind. I'm like, well, can we wait until they're not taking naps anymore? Can we wait until they can go to the bathroom by themselves before we go on a 10-mile hike, before we do all these things? I see you, I hear you, and it sounds amazing. But can we get the timing right? Because timing is everything. Doesn't make it not a good idea, but we have to figure out if the timing, the resources, if it's worth distracting from the primary priority.
It, the word, my favorite F word in the English language is focus. So if
Hmm.
you ask me, what is the number one reason why companies fail, why entrepreneurs don't make it, they didn't have focus. I once heard a speaker say, the killer to success is opportunity. And we go chasing all those opportunities. But that superpower of being a visionary and being able to see what are we building it to 3 to 5 years, that's key. Because you cannot run any company on a, what do we need to do the next 3 months? What's the next 3 months? Where are we? Because then you've got this, you build Legos like I do. Oh, that orange piece looks wonderful. It'll go with that purple piece right here. I have no idea what I'm going to make in the end, but it's going to be abstract. And that's how I think I'm good at Legos.
Yeah.
Everything's abstract. So having that visionary say, no, this is what it needs to look like in the end, and then surround themselves with the right people to then say, then here's what we need to accomplish. Here's where we are at now, and here are the skills that we're missing. And you just said, let's let them get potty trained first. Let's take them on a 1-mile hike before a 10-mile hike. Let's get them ready so that 3 years from now, they are relentlessly executing on your vision and not, why in the world are we nowhere close to it? Why, when, at one point did the company outgrow this person that I hired in and have worked with them so hard? Why am I so frustrated with my team?
I've outgrown them. The business has outgrown them. I did a whole podcast on this one with Katie McConnell, and it's literally this idea that like the business has outgrown them. If we outgrow our jeans, we leave them in the closet and we don't take them out. And it's much harder to do that with people. And so we fight ourselves, we fight our sense of loyalty, we fight against that person sometimes, and they feel like they're letting us down. That's the worst of all of it, Kristen, is if I'm the one you've outgrown, I know it, and I have this major imposter syndrome, but I'm certainly not going to ask you to right size my role, and I might not leave because I don't want to let you down. And so there's this mutual discontent with the company and the person, and it's heartbreaking to see.
Yep. That's, so let the visionary be the visionary. Help them get that clarity on what do we want to build this company to, and 4. Because if you want to build a lifestyle company, Melissa, I'm not going to try and replace you. That is not my priority over the next 3 years. My
Yeah.
priority is going to be optimizing the bottom line so you are able to live the lifestyle you want for whatever you want to make and for the commitment you want to make to the company. Versus if you say, I want to build a $10 million company and only work 30 hours a week, I'm going to need the right leadership team in place. We're going to need to get a president to GM, someone who's solid running this company by the end of that 3 years. Those are two very different directions.
So it doesn't disqualify me from calling on your team if I decide I want to build a lifestyle business and I just want to do it well. I want it to serve me. I love the work. I don't want to stop working with clients. That isn't a deal killer for your team, is what I'm hearing.
Absolutely not. It's just going to be a different individual who knows how to be able to set up, because a lifestyle company then needs to operate in the optimal way. And we're going to focus on how do we do things in the most effective and efficient way, operations, and it's going to be on talent retention and customer retention. Because you and I both know the two most expensive things you can do in a company is talent acquisition and client acquisition.
Yeah.
So our efforts, we only have so many resources. We have a pie chart. How much of our resources are going to go towards talent acquisition versus retention? Well, if we want a lifestyle business, it needs to be retention,
Yeah.
which means we're going to need to continually be upscaling them. We are not going to grow 30% year over year. We're going to grow 3% year over year revenue, but 5 to 6% in profit. This is how we're going to build this cash flow sustainable, which then at any point in time, you're throwing off that much cash. We can now replace you in the next 6 to 12 months and turn it into a sellable company. Still different strategies.
Yeah. Interesting. Okay. What is the most frequent role in terms of a fractional leader that you bring in? What's the most common role that needs to come? Is it a COO integrator type role? Is it a marketing role? What's the lead that there's the most need for in your
It's a
experience?
great question. Hands down, year over year, we track it as to what's top 1, 2, 3, 4. Finance. 100%. When you look at every company out there, the first role that a owner CEO wants to take off their plate is finance. Almost no one likes that finance and accounting side of it. And it's needed early on. So once you hit about 3 million, there's some level of a CFO, and it may only be 10 hours a month that you should be bringing on, because the company's finances outgrow what you can keep in your head on any given day.
Yeah.
And if we don't know our numbers, we can't operate, we can't grow, period. We got to know our numbers.
Okay. What's number two?
In most cases, it's going to be operations,
Yeah.
because that's most owners understand the concept of needing to operate effectively, efficiently, and have someone doing that on a day-to-day basis, because so many owners are great technicians or great salespeople. They're not great operators. So they do want to free up their time to go see more customers, to go do that relationship building, to go work on that next innovation of product. So they'll bring in an operator, and that's where we see a lot of fractional, a lot of interim. Most companies don't want to go without an operations leader. Or what we're seeing more and more is operators that have grown up through the company, they are not what the company needs. So they'll bring in kind of a part-time interim. I call it on-the-job coaching.
Okay.
22 days a week to work side
Like
by
a
side.
mentor?
What?
To help them level up, like a
And
mentor?
help them help them level up.
Okay.
So 20% they're not going to level up to anytime in the near future. But that 20% only needs to be done over the next 3 months. We need to make these operational changes. We need to put these things in place, but they only need to be done once. That individual does it. And meanwhile, you've got that director of operations shadowing them. They're giving them toolkit. They're walking out of meetings saying, did you understand what just happened or what is needed? They say no. Let's go into your office and let's talk through it. And we're going to do
Yeah.
this on rinse and repeat until this becomes instinctive to you.
Because the
And
owner certainly doesn't have the capacity or often the interest to do that. And
most of us do it because we come by it naturally. We don't know how to teach it.
yeah, we don't know how to explain it. We don't even know why we know it. It's just intuitive.
We just do it. I think there's so many opportunities to be able to, as you say, level up and skill up or cross skill so many of our team so that they can continue to grow with the company and not have the company outgrow them.
Yeah. Hmm. So what
I can see the wheels turning, Melissa. You're going, all
yeah,
right,
yeah.
yep, this situation and that situation, we can. This is what we want to do. We want to help the companies and we want to help the employees.
I think that's probably the reason I've been playing in the same sandbox for so long is because the mutual benefit for the organization and the employee. When I'm more engaged and I'm in the right seat, I go home with more energy for my family, my faith, my physical well-being, my community, whatever it is I want to give back to. I have more gas in the tank than if I'm the wrong person or if I'm in the wrong seat. I'm so taxed at the end of the day, I don't have anything left. And that to me is such a huge waste of human resource in our society. And the amount of people who are in the wrong jobs and they know it, but gosh, this sure doesn't seem like a good time to switch. So I'm going to stick it out. But they don't know how to ask for what they need. They don't know how to advocate for themselves. And so it's this everybody's losing situation. And so I think that's why this has been a continually interesting and exciting space to play in because nobody wants to suck at their jobs. We want to do better. We want to take that ownership you were talking about. But we've got to have the right environment for it.
Everything you just described of helping the teams and the employees, that same thought process is what I see with so many business owners. Also, I don't want to suck at my job, but I'm in over my head. I've never led a company that's $15 million. I've only worked for a company that was 5 million and then I broke out
Right.
on my own. Look, and every day that decision fatigue because you're just constantly having to make the decisions and you're tired and you're going home and you're taking that stress with you because
And
not
not
all of
even
us.
decisions, Kristen. It's like being in charge of every conversation I'm in. So few leaders get to be just present and absorb so much of the interactions there. And whether it's with clients, with team members, with vendors, they're on. And it's taxing. Even if you're great at being in charge, you love being in the driver's seat. At some point, there's just only so much to go around.
This is why it takes any sports analogy you want. This is why we have half times. This is why we have timeouts. To be a winning team, to be the best in your sport, you have timeouts. You can be able to say, I'm going to hit the pause button. I'm going to go away for 2 days and I'm going to think through, or I'm going to bring in a coach, an advisor, a guide to help pull out of my head so that I can be utterly clear to my team what they are going to be accountable for the purpose of X. And then you come back in and you come back in like a relentless executing force in that game and you can win it. But we need that halftime. We need that pause to be able to stop and think, what are we doing all this for? And it's amazing, Melissa, when you come back from that, how many things you find you really don't need to be doing. You get to
The to
just
don't list.
edit it out. Yeah, the to don't let I call it do it, delegate it, delete it. How you
Yeah.
go through that 3D exercise and how many things you don't need to be doing and that you might delegate, but you're really, why are we doing that? Because that's not going to get me to my X, to my finish line.
Kristen, is that something your team offers? Is that executive coaching for clarity, even if they don't take on a fractional team member, or is it just part of the package when they do take on a fractional team member?
Yeah, I'm finding over the years it's part of what we do, whether they do or don't, but our conversations with them, and we absolutely can work with them one on one and
Okay.
as an advisor or have someone work with them as an advisor to help them figure out, where do I want to get to at this point? And it may just be the next 3 years. What outcomes do I need from my company? And do I have the right people doing them? And where do I need to fill in the gaps? And that's where all those options of leadership on a contract, on an employee basis, it's plug and play. Anything you need, especially as you mentioned in today's market, you can get it. And it may be that you know someone already, you just didn't have the clarity to know that those were the skill sets that I needed right now.
Oh, I'm so glad you said that because that's where I wanted to take you next was if I'm a business owner and I'm thinking on taking on fractional support, what are some of the things I need to be thinking of that are you're already pre-selecting for that I mean so often I hear clients like, "Oh, they've got to have industry experience. They've got to have this, they've got to have that." What are your non-negotiables that you see consistently deliver good results?
It is, I go through 85% of getting the right person on board, full time or otherwise, is the clarity of what problems are they solving or what opportunities are they maximizing for us.
Okay.
What problem are they solving for? And if they solve that, it will get us here. It will get us to our X. It will get us over this hurdle. It will get us this milestone. What problem are they solving for? Because then it's a lot easier to align who has the expertise to do that and has solved for that 5 different times. We had a role, we put in an interim CHRO, and we presented 3 different people. 2 of the individuals had every point that the team wanted. Whole leadership team said, here's what we want. And those 2 individuals checked off every single one of those. Industry experience, the same size organization. They fit our culture. You're,
Where's
you're
that?
nodding, you're smiling. Yes. And then we gave them someone that didn't match any of that, but had the experience working with 100-plus-year-old organization that needed to go through a major transformation to get it from the 1900s to the 2000s, working with all these different stakeholders and communicate and work along the way. And I still love this client's comment. He said, "You did not give us what we asked for. You
Give
gave
us
us
what we
exactly what we needed." And it had nothing to do with industry experience. It was, what problem is happening? We have a 110-year-old organization of really smart people who want to still do things the way we used to do. And if we do that, we won't be around in 5 years. We have to change. So we took someone from a very different industry that transformed a 150-year-old company. And she was phenomenal. And then once they got there, she helped them find the longer term individual, brought them on board, got them up and trained, and she exited stage left and was always there a phone call away.
That's amazing. I see the same thing. I keep hearing this recurring thing, whether it's me as a founder, us as a company, what we think we need is often not quite aligned. And so often we'll find partners who can say, yes, I can give you exactly what you're looking for. But that isn't necessarily in our best interest to just hit the easy button, take some introspection, it takes some work and takes some real partnership. So I'm grateful that you and your team are available. Um, are there any other parting thoughts or questions you want to plant before we move towards closing out our discussion?
I think a great place to start as an owner is anytime someone comes to us with a question or to make a decision, stop and ask the question, what problem are we solving for? Like, you will save hours, days, weeks, and months not chasing the squirrel down a rabbit hole. And once we get in that mindset of what problem are we solving for, it's a lot easier for us to use it on ourselves. So as we think, I need to hire this, I need to do that, pause and say, if I do that, will it solve the problem I actually need to solve for? So just get that in our mindset. What problem are we solving for? And it really makes us stop and think and get that clarity on what we actually want. Let's get back to loving our companies, loving what we do, and everyone inside of it loving that we are going to win.
That is beautiful. I have nothing to say to that. That's such, it really ties back to the like people we've outgrown. That's such a great coaching mechanism for them to help them step back because often they've gone down the path with us, right? And so it's the best way to learn something is to teach it. And so I
And then
think
all of
that
a sudden you turn it on yourself and you realize, or I had an employee once ask me, she said, because I've been asking her, she goes, what question do you always ask me? I was like, what problem am I solving for? She's like, exactly. It's like, oh, you're right.
use my own medicine on me. So if someone is listening and they'd like to contact you, what is the best way to reach out?
Best way, CeriusExecutives.com. That's CERIUS, or just go to LinkedIn, Kristen McAllister. You can't help but find me.
Great. Great. And if you're looking for help with people problems, my name is Mel Ortiz with Activate Human Capital Group, and Activate HCG, like humancapitalgroup.com, is our website. I'm also pretty easy to find on LinkedIn. My maiden name is Yerxa, Yerxa. So Melissa Yerxa Ortiz is a lot easier to find than Melissa Ortiz's because there's a lot of us. And I really love these conversations. So thank you, Kristen, for taking the time to do this. And I look forward to future discussions.
It's one of many, Melissa. Love it.
Thanks. Bye-bye. Well, that's a wrap on this episode of You've Got People Problems. If you got something out of the conversation, make sure to subscribe, leave us a review, and share it with the other leaders in your network, because let's face it, we all have people problems. You can watch full episodes on YouTube or listen on your favorite podcast app. But either way, thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.